If you like this video, click like. If you want to continue to follow our adventure, hit subscribe. Your support would be greatly appreciated.
Hello, Lives on the Road subscribers and followers. Well, you know what today is? Yep, Friday. You know what that means? Yep, it's Easy 5 Friday. And today's topic is, and I don't know the title of it yet, I'm working on the title, but today's topic is the most interesting people we have seen, not met, but seen out here in these national forests. And, you know, what got me to thinking about this was, I am sure a lot of people question what it is we're doing out here when they don't know us. So, how do I explain this? Okay, so we pull up on our pop-up camper. You know, here we are in South Carolina. We have Missouri plates, and we're here for an extended stay. 14 days at this particular location, 21 days at Hawk Campground, 21 days at Wolf Gap. You get the idea. So, you know, I'm sure people are like, what is their deal? You know, are they homeless? Well, they can't be homeless because they're from Missouri and they got a nice truck or, you know, whatever. You know, so what is their story? Surely they're not living in their pop-up camper. Well, as you and I know, yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. So, but that brings up the story of some of the people that we have seen, and we wonder what their story is. And, you know, and it's a varying degree of my list, but it was just people I thought was interesting. Curious what their story was. So I'm going to start out with the one lady behind us right now. So number one, a couple days after we got here, a Class C, well, I don't know if it's Class C, I really don't know the classes of RVs. This one is a Winnebago Mini, and it looks really new, you know, like new. And so, you know, immediately my mind goes to, oh, here we go. Somebody in a Class C, they're going to sit here and make fun of our little pop-up, you know, what their deal is, and, you know, it's going to be an overnight stay, and the whole time they're going to be snooty, and, you know. So, and that's typically the case, is when somebody pulls up one of these big things, you know, they hate anybody in a pop-up. But this lady, she stayed her night, and the next day she was still there, and the next day she was still there, and every other night or so she turns on the generator, but you hardly see any sign of her. We see her dog quite a bit, which, you know, I don't agree with. I don't, that she lets her dog run loose. You know, it goes potty and she doesn't pick it up, but that's beside the point. But it's just her and her dog, and she sits on the wooded side of her camper. Nobody can see her. But she is just interesting. Here she is, I would assume, I'm making a little bit of assumptions, a single woman out traveling, seeing the world, and taking her time doing it, just like us. And I just found that really fascinating, that, you know, what is her life story that brought her out here? Is it similar to my story? I mean, she doesn't bother anybody. She doesn't talk to anybody. Nothing. She just minds her own business. So, just like me and Carolyn. So, I really found her fascinating. The other day I saw her, and this was interesting. I wish I would have thought, and I didn't think quick enough, but she was trying to fill her tank, her water tank, with a bucket of water and a pitcher. She was literally dumping the bucket into the pitcher and dumping the pitcher into the little hole on the side of her camper. And I kept thinking, what can I do to help her? What can I do to help her? You know, do I have a pump? What can I do? And after she had finished, I realized, you know what I should have done is I should have cut off a piece of hose for her, and she could just siphon the water from her bucket right into the camper. And I hope I get to see her do it again before I leave, because I bet that would make life a lot easier for her than having to dump water into a pitcher. So, you know, being out here in free campsites, you do have to use some ingenuity, and I'm really impressed that she used that kind of ingenuity to get her tank filled. It would have been a little bit labor intensive, but still, she's trying, and so and that just really makes me happy. So, number 2, we were at Walnut Flats in Southwest Virginia, and this lady pulled up in a car. Okay, a young lady. I bet she was still in her 20s. And a man pulled up right behind her in a U-Haul van. And it was late. It was getting dark out. So, you know, it's 8, 9 o'clock. There's a child there, was in the van. It was obvious, though, that the man and woman used to be a couple, but they are no longer a couple. That was quite clear. And the child was their child. But that's the only thing we really gathered from the whole thing. Well, he helped her set up a tent, unloaded the van into the tent. So there was contents, okay? And the girl the whole time is, you know, crying and saying, I'm going to miss you and be safe and the whole thing. And again, this woman was very young and it looked like she's never gotten dirt underneath her fingernails ever. So it was actually kind of surprising to think that she was going to camp here. But she's packed all the contents in this van into the... So they both leave. They apparently drop off the van because they both come back in the car. She gets out the car. And he leaves with the girl. And she says to the girl, you know, before he leaves, she says, I'll call you tomorrow, to the little girl. Which I didn't know how she did that because there was no cell signal there. But anyway, so she stayed in the tent with her belongings. And I really wondered what the story was. I really wanted to understand what's the story. I mean, she had her belongings. Well, the next day, the forest ranger, I guess, asked her to move her tent because she was in a non-designated camping spot. So she had to move it, I guess, you know, 100 feet or so. So the forest ranger helped her move all her belongings and the tent over 100 feet over to the designated camping area. You know, put all the stuff back in there. That day she came over and asked me to charge her phone so she could call her daughter, which I guess she did. I guess she walked down the road long enough, which would have been a 2 or 3 mile hike. And she called her daughter because later she said she talked to her. But that's all we knew about her, was she got a hold of her daughter. I really wondered what the story was on that. Number 3. This one is actually interesting. This was down in Lake City, Florida, at West Tower Campground. It was the campsite host. I really didn't understand what their deal was. The thing is you know, you usually have a campsite host. It's probably a family, a husband, wife, maybe kids. Well, this was a husband, wife, and kids, and a mother-in-law who had their own trailer. I really didn't understand the story. I mean, so we had 2 trailers hooked up to water, and, you know, the whole family was there. The mother-in-law, or however you want to look at it, the wife's mother, the campsite host. And it didn't appear that he ever did anything there. I mean, the Forest Service still came around and changed toilet paper and kept the place clean and, you know, the whole thing. Took out the trash, so he wasn't responsible for that. He told us that he had to work for the Forest Ranger 30 to 40 hours a week, but we'd been there the whole week. We didn't see him do anything. But Carolyn noted that he left every day. So we're wondering if maybe he had to go and drive to a job for the Forest Service and do a job off-site or something. I don't know. But rarely did you see any of the other family members. The kids ran around, kind of owned the front side of the park. I mean, you know, they kind of, that was their playground. What was really interesting about the thing was there was right next to us actually, was another Class C RV, and nobody was in it. And it had been there a long time. I mean, long time. Grass had grown up around it. You can just tell that it had been there a very long time. Grass underneath it was dead. Well, there's a 14-day stay limit. Well, the whole time, the campsite host, the family, kept going in and out, and they grabbed different varieties of food. You know, I saw him coming out with bacon one time. So I'm thinking, well, maybe that's theirs. I don't know. And that's their food storage camper. Oh man, that would be expensive, because we had a fifth wheel, and the mother-in-law had a travel trailer, and now there's this camper. Well, later, an elderly woman was brought back by some sort of, I don't know how to explain it, medical care van, and got her out, took her into the Class C, hooked her up to some oxygen. So I don't know if she was a family member of the campsite host, because as soon as she got there, they moved the camper over to their location. So now there's 3, campers, travel trailer, RV, and a fifth wheel, all parked at the campsite host, and they're all hooked up to water. So it was just unusual. I didn't know if they were all related. It was just a lot of campsite hosts in that one little spot. So again, interesting, that's all. And then finally, number 5. I hear something going on in the background. Number 5. Lady in the truck. When we went to Wolf Gap in George Washington National Forest, and this one was literally on the border of West Virginia and Virginia. If you went to the bathroom, you were in West Virginia. If you went to my campsite, you were in Virginia. On the West Virginia side of the campsite was a lady who lived in her truck. And, at first it was just odd. She didn't have a tent, and we thought, wow, what is the deal with this lady? Is she homeless? What's the deal? So, after a while, though, she came and visited us and kind of filled us in on her story. She just wanted to start living in her truck. She wanted to see the world, and she didn't have a lot of money. So she was just going to sleep in her truck. And she was. And she asked a lot of questions about how to camp and RV and cooking and bears and batteries. While I was there, her battery went dead. And so she asked me to give her a jump, which I used my generator. It was a lot easier. Took my generator over there and jumped the truck. And, she had the truck pretty much set up for the whole deal. She had 2 batteries in there, RV batteries. One was a car battery, the other was an RV battery. So she had an extended battery. But she did cooking on the campfire and slept in her truck, and that was her life. So, it was really, really, really intriguing that this woman chose to live her life in her pickup truck. So, anyway, there's the conclusion of the interesting people that we have met so far. I thought I'd share that with you. I hope you found it interesting. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Click like if you like the video, and happy travels.